And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Bacinda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games, and amazing players find great designers whose games they can love. We do that in a lot of different ways, but one of the most fun is sitting down with those designers to play their games, and that's exactly what we are doing today. We are sitting down with Jelly to play Inevitable, which is a game that is live right now on Kickstarter. You can go to the link right below Kegan's beautiful face to check out more about that. It's also linked down below, and I'm going to ask Kegan to pin it in the chat also too, if they can. But I'm really excited to sit down and play Zach. What?
I pinned it way before you said that.
Oh man, you're already on top of it. Jelly, why don't you tell people a little about who you are, what you do, and tell us about Inevitable.
Cool, yeah. I am Zach, or Jelly Muppet on most places of the internet. I run a role-playing game company called Soul Muppet Publishing, based out of England in the United Kingdom. We make role-playing games that are usually sad and usually stressful, about people trying to escape horrible situations, whether that's stuff like Orbital Blues, which is our game about being depressed in space, or Best Left Brave, which is our game about horrible dungeoneering and how awful it would be to be a dungeoneering if you did it in real life, or our newest project, Inevitable, we're playing today, which is a sad Arthurian western about a group of cowboys trying to save the world from an oncoming apocalypse. The Kickstarter is live right now, and we're going to be playing today the free quick start, which you can grab on the Soul Muppet web store. You'll be able to see a link to that if you follow the one in chat to the Kickstarter. This is a little free beak zine that basically has all you need to play this game. It's kind of got a book here with all the rules on it that kind of folds like so, and then also on the other side, there's an adventure. I did that very nimbly. I made it look sweet. But yeah, we're going to be playing that today.
I will say, I think it's the first time I've seen somebody use the pocket like zine format for their quick start, and I super appreciated it, even though I did see that there were some people who were like, I don't understand why it's formatted this way. And I'm like, this is such great formatting. I absolutely love it. And I think it also shows off how compact the core rules for the game that we're going to be diving into are. A co-worker of yours, another team member, Matt Sanders, is somebody who I've had a couple conversations with about maximal minimalism. And I think Soul Muppet does a really great job of creating really straightforward play experiences. Like the rules are very easy to learn, but doing really beautiful, expansive production around those. So I'm super excited to get to play Inevitable and for folks to be able to see some of that as we go through. Let's meet our other players, though. Already mentioned regular face and the stream leader of our cult here on Plus One EXP. That's Kegan. Kegan, why don't you tell people more about yourself than I already did?
Hi, I'm Kegan. I think, Tony, I think you basically said all the things already.
Cool. Awesome. If people want to get your games, where should they go?
Oh, yeah, you just go to keganexe.com. That has all my links.
There you go. Awesome. And then maybe not first time on this stream, maybe first time on this stream. We started talking about it beforehand. We couldn't remember for sure. What you do, where they can find you online.
Sure thing. My name is Grahame. I am a game designer. I've also done some podcasting in the past. I have also actually written a couple of adventure modules for Orbital Blues, the aforementioned sad space cowboy game, which you can get either from the Soul Muppet web store, or I also have PDFs available on my itch page, which is at understory.itch.io. You can also find me on Instagram and not Instagram. I am the Instagram on Twitter, at the Instagram on Twitter and Tumblr,
Awesome.
and various Discord servers.
Awesome. Glad to have you playing with us. Before we dive into the game, we use a couple tools here on stream to make sure that we stay on track and that everybody stays comfortable, especially since we play with different people all the time and play different systems all the time. Those are lines, veils, and the X card. We also use something called an open door policy. Lines are things that may happen in the world of the game we're playing in, but they don't happen in the course of our play of it. They are off limits. There's a hard line against going into those areas. Veils are things that may come up in games, but we handle them in a certain way. That may be we mention them and move on quickly, we fade to black when they come up, or that we only approach them within a certain context that we define as everybody being comfortable with. And then the X card is the ability for anybody at any point in time to say or type X into chat. We'll pause the game, identify what the issue is. Nobody has to explain why they don't like it. They can just say, I don't like it. And then we may update our lines and veils as we go because of that, but we'll move on in a different direction, removing that content. We have a hard line against sexual violence and sexual coercion on the channel, but we like to leave it open to everybody else as part of a conversation about what other things we'd like to see on or off the table. So does anybody have any things that they want to mention? And then we'll also let Zach maybe after that talk a little bit about some of the themes that we may be encountering also.
No, I'm all good.
Cool. Should we get to go?
Jelly, anything specific that people might want to be aware of as they're watching us play through this adventure or in the setting?
So this Inevitable has I would say it's probably got content warnings for violence, death, and mental health, and also like the apocalypse. At various points in this game, it's possible that large amounts of people may die off screen because our civilization is being destroyed. So that's something to be aware of if you're uncomfortable with certain types of violence. This specific adventure has a quite strong cannibalism content warning. There are some rebels in this part of the state who think that their leader should be king rather than your king that your characters will be serving. And they worship a dark and hungry god who desires the consumption of human flesh. So if that's uncomfortable with anybody, I can either run a different part of the adventure, or obviously if you're watching the stream and that would make you uncomfortable, I'd probably recommend not watching this live stream. Yeah. There is another one that covers a different part of the world that is being ran by TT Benjamin. If you're interested in watching this game but don't want to confront those themes, I would recommend heading there or dropping me a message on Twitter and I can forward you to where that stream might be.
Perfect.
But yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive in. Just a reminder, we also do have that open door policy. So you may see us eat, drink, talk to somebody off screen. You may see somebody have to get up for a couple of minutes and take care of some business. That's because we're all real normalish people who have real normalish lives. And if you're a real normalish person, you should take care of yourself also too, just like we will. Look at, see, like Jelly doing such a good job just demonstrating it right off the bat. Like, I'm out.
Before the stream started. Foolish of me.
Don't forget to hydrate.
So please take care of yourselves as you are watching also too. With that said, I'm going to turn things over to Jelly to take us into Inevitable.
Cool. So, Inevitable quick start. one of the things that this has on its 7 pages of introduction are 6 bullet points. That is kind of what you need to know about the setting to both run and play this adventure. So I'm going to kind of use them as read aloud here. And please interrupt me, guys, if you have any questions. So you guys are knights, wizards, and gunslingers in service to the King of Myth. He rules the last great civilization of the Barren, the all-encompassing desert that is all that remains of the world. This game is a fantasy western. It has all the features of a fantasy kingdom and also a lot of western aesthetics to it. Everything that exists in a fantasy or a western setting should live somewhere within this sandblasted, dust-bitten world. Importantly, guys, thematically, this isn't really a western in that there is no sort of wild frontier that we are expanding into as civilization. The world is crumbling in on itself. That any wildness that exists is because people lived there and it was abandoned because the world is slowly collapsing for reasons that we will not get to within this one shot. Myth is the last civilization. It is ruled by a child, a teenager called Grahame. His father, King Malavan, was killed about 5 years ago at the Battle of the Violet Fields by his traitorous brother, the Cannibal Saint. He has rebelled, and even though he was defeated in this battle, he now rules one of Myth's 5 duchies, and its people and the soldiers within it are fighting an ongoing civil war with the people of Myth. The next thing that is worth knowing is that because this is an Arthurian story, there are 2 orders in this fantasy kingdom that are relevant to this game. There are the Knight Errants, who defend Myth's people and institutions. These are sort of wandering swordsmen and gunslingers who serve the king, who are kind of responsible for the defense of the world. Tony, you're playing one of those guys today, Sir Darian the Amber-Hearted.
I am.
There's a second type of hero that we have in this setting. The second are the Mystics, who are a cabal of wizards. Normally, wizards wouldn't be very nice people within this setting, but these particular wizards have turned to order and have served the crown in the same way the knights do. Grahame is playing Moonlark, who is also one of these wizards. Kegan, you're playing the Mari the Balladeer, right?
Yep.
The Mari is a tale weaver, which is essentially like the equivalent of a bard or a minstrel or a troubadour within this setting. Your job is to immortalize these 2 great heroes in legend. You want to tell the story of the doom of Myth, hopefully survive it, and then sing a song about it sometime. And then that will be how you become famous. You can also do the same heroic stuff as these heroes are. These other characters can, but that's kind of your role within this little party.
Cool.
Wizards and priests can use the power of the 2 twin magical boons that you can see to my left to cast magic, compelling elements, people, and concepts by using these words of truth, these names of power, which allow you to have magical influence over them. When worshipped, these names, if they grow powerful enough, can indeed become like gods, basically. A couple final things to carry. People who see the future are prophets. Their visions are immutable and inevitable. The Baron's foremost prophet, who is the Oracle of Carcass, has seen the doom of Myth, which means that your civilization is going to be destroyed. The city you live in, Knight's Home, will burn. Grahame, your king, this boy, will be the last king, and all those who follow him will die. Your characters have declared that this will not be the case. You attempt to defy fate, and over the course of this campaign, you're going to see if you can stop the doom. And I don't think it's possible, but maybe it is somehow if you are good enough at what you do and noble enough, or prepared to break the rules of chivalry, perhaps. But we'll see. The other thing that's important is that many heroes of Myth carry rune-carved revolvers crafted by wizards. Each one of these wizards creates their own recipe for gunpowder and bullets from the ingredients they own that are magical. They fire with deafening roars and flares of massive light. They're difficult to manufacture new ammunition for. All of you have some kind of fancy magic item that is a weapon. Tony's got a magic sword, the Andalite. Kegan has a handgun, Reason. And then Grahame has Comet, which is Moonlark's hand cannon.
Yes.
Those are both fancy magic guns that will do something. We can kind of decide what they are based on their names as we play. That's kind of what you guys need to know about the world in as short a time as I can in like what is quite a lore-heavy game. Does anybody have any questions about that stuff we just talked about? Where I just dropped a lot of information on you guys at once.
Nope.
No, I think I'm good actually.
Hell yeah. So, I'm going to talk a bit about how the game works before we get started, just because it's kind of quite structured, because it's meant to tell this one very specific type of story. Over the course of this one shot, you guys are going to go on a quest of some kind. You've been sent by the king to the border forts between the Cannibal Saints' rebellious duchy and the crown lands where people live and where the king dwells. There's going to be a quest of some kind. Once you arrive there, I'll present you with a couple of options, and then you guys can go off and do one of those things. If we were playing a longer campaign, this was like 3 to 6 sessions, you guys would do a couple of those things, and at the end of that time, you'd try to do something about the Cannibal Saint himself, this big doom that is one of the 6 things risking to destroy Myth, along with various wizards, traitors, rebels, and dragons, and various other things that can go wrong. You'll set up on that quest, and then you guys would be looking for ways in the setting to defeat that quest by gaining advantages for yourself. These are measured in something we call showdown tokens. If we do something that we think is meaningfully dangerous and has a possibility of helping you on your quest, we will roll a challenge, which is generated by basically going through and oh, you can see the rules now. That's fantastic. I didn't even know this was a possibility. I'm just looking at the tree from the window. Yeah, so we'll go and basically build the rules for a challenge, which is basically if you look in the bottom left corner of the rules, you'll be able to see that there's a couple bullet points we go down and build a dice pool and then roll the dice. And it kind of works a bit like Blades in the Dark in that we pick the highest one, and the higher the dice is, the more likely you are to succeed and the less likely you are to suffer consequences. Once we've done a couple of those challenges, we will be doing something called a showdown, which is the final encounter, sort of a tumbleweeds will roll. There'll probably be a gunfight or a battle or a duel of some kind between you and the thing stopping you from completing this quest. And that will then be our final encounter of the session. We'll be building towards that. And essentially the challenges will be generating 2 mechanisms, 2 meta tokens rather, showdown tokens and threat, that we will use in that final confrontation. Once we've done a couple of challenges and the showdown is kind of something that makes sense for us to do because we've spent a little bit of time doing it, we've got these advantages we were looking for, we can try to... I'll explain how the showdown works in a bit more detail, but right now I'm going to leave it off just to give them information overload. The other thing that's important about your characters is you haven't got any stats or anything. All that you have is your reputations. These are the ways that you are regarded by the people of Myth and the tales that people talk about your characters. Because all 3 of you are legendary heroes of Myth. Songs have been sung about your deeds, right? You aren't just any old schmuck somewhere within the setting. You're lauded at court and known in song. Each of you have 3 reputations, which kind of quantifies and qualifies what it is that you're known for in the setting. And they're also how we express the abilities of a character. If your character is, for example, has the reputations bold, capable, and reckless, they're going to solve problems in a very different way to a character that is savvy, scheming, and deceptive. Your reputations will change during play as a result of all the checks that you're taking. So if you are known as being honorable and you lie to somebody, as a cost for doing that, your reputation might change, right? And this is about your characters growing over time and the stories we talk about them shifting, basically. So that's kind of everything you need to know now about how the rules work. I think what would be cool to do is kind of everybody go through their characters and tell the people on the stream about them using the bio you've got. Let us know what reputations you have, any cool abilities that you have, any equipment or stuff you look like. If you want to change some of these slightly from the way they are in the book, I don't mind. Nothing's going to break. These are like characters from the playtest I ran, a big, long playtest we did. But yeah, just go through and tell us about them, basically.
Cool.
Any volunteers to go first?
I'll go first. So I'm playing as Sir Darian the Amber-Hearted. My great reputations are ill-fated, valiant, and insolent. I'm a dashing knight-errant, rival to the mighty Sir Levere. I wield the Anderlight, a cursed blade that glows moon-hued, and I wear plate mail beneath a flowing crimson cloak.
Hell yeah.
Moonlark, you want to go next?
I'll go next. I'm playing Mari the Balladeer. I'm a tale weaver. I'm sorry, I have duplicitous, knowledgeable, and craven. I'm a tale weaver gifted the handgun Truth by the Owls of Parliament. I often wear formal court wear and carry precious silver hand chimes used to accompany my song.
All right. And I'm playing the... Oh, yeah, sorry.
Let's hear about Moonlark.
Yeah. I am playing the Moonlark. I am sagacious, perceptive, and free-willed. I am a mystic, apprentice to the lofty stargazer. I know the words of power, tide and starlight, and I wield comet, a hand cannon, and I wear robes festooned with silvery stars and a delightfully floppy hat.
Yeah, okay. So these are our protagonists within this tale. Okay. I think we're ready to get going. Any questions about any of those characters out of interest, or are we good to go?
I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Cool. So you've been sent by the king. The boy King Grahame, your sovereign, has ordered you to go to the border forts where you guys have been fighting the hordes of the Cannibal Saint. These are soldiers at his command. They eat the flesh of the dead. They are altogether unpleasant people, and they believe that their leader, the Cannibal Saint, should be the king, not Grahame. Malavan, who is Rabane's father, was killed by his brother, the Cannibal Saint, in a battle about 5 years ago, and that was basically over a succession contest. For a while, there have been forts along the edge of this border, the border forts, as they are so called. They've constantly been weathering skirmishes and assaults from the Cannibal Saints' armies. There has been, for a while, a famous knight here. Her name is Sir Catherine the Tall. She was the commander of the royal army, basically, and has been responsible for defending this fort since they've existed, basically. She's been killed. She's been killed by a half giant, a man named as the Gourmand, who's like a 10-foot tall, flesh-eating warrior. The second in command, Halston the Oak, has requested some relief from the border forts, and you guys have been sent as reinforcements to assist her. The forts are big and old, and they've been manned by soldiers, and you've been sent to reinforce them, basically. Tony, am I allowed to talk about politics?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, the crowning of this is a game about how bad royalty is as a concept. Just because I'm British, I'm not pro the crowning of people. Okay, Half of the dooms in this game are about the fact that this king is young and not very good at his job and has been given it because of a succession contest. Half of the dooms are related to the legitimacy of his claim. And if they were just voting about it or having a meritocracy or doing anything apart from having a constitutional, an absolute monarchy, this whole adventure probably just wouldn't happen. So
yeah, I definitely screenshotted one of the 6 horrible things that could happen, and I was like, this is the one that anytime players encountered, I'm sure is the best, because I'm sure they're all kind of like, but what if we just gave up and let this person win?
For sure. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted by somebody reminding me about King Charles sausage fingers. Anyway, right. Yeah, you've been sent to the border forts to reinforce them following the death of Sir Catherine the Tall, who has died in battle with the Gourmand. Okay, so here's a fun bit of characterization. Guys, tell me about your horses. I want everyone to go down the line. We'll start with Tony and tell me a bit about Sir Darian's horse.
Yeah, my horse, Flo, is like very much what you think about when you think about a war horse. Like when they were like, when somebody thinks about like the Vervituan war horse, they think of Flo, my horse, and there is definitely like matching crimson like accents on the saddlebag, dark brown, almost reddish hue to their coat, well maintained and well cared for, like musculature and stature, but like a real weariness to their eyes, as if they've been ridden hard one too many times, and aren't sure if they can continue to push forward.
That seems like a metaphor for something.
Who knows?
Nice. Okay, Kegan.
Yeah, I have the horse, Celine. She is, dressage where you have like little dancing horses. I imagine she's one of those. She's like a white, just like a solid white horse. Has not spent much time outside. Great at dancing though. And really, that's the important part of having a horse, I think.
Hell yeah. Grahame.
Yeah, I think my horse is named Astrid. She's white and sort of black spotted. I think spotted Palomino is a breed of horse. And so the sort of spots kind of echo the like stars on the robe. So we kind of look like opposites of each other, but we're both kind of, spry and, nimble little horses and little people.
Hell yeah. Okay, cool. So I have a question, and this is something I'm happy for you to announce because it won't really have much of an impact on the setting too much. The king has sent you to reinforce this fort? Has he just sent the 3 of you? Or do you have soldiers with you? Like, how big is the company that you're traveling with?
Yeah, the mission is we are to go out and take command of / reinforce this border forts, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
That feels like more than just us.
Possibly. Depends how many soldiers you think the king has.
Yeah, I think I was opening that up to the table.
Darian, who we know has some spicy reputations, said, "Sir, give me 100 spears," or have you gone, "I shall be enough to defend the forts upon myself"?
No, I definitely don't think that Sir Darian would have asked out of courtly etiquette, but just barely. And I also I don't think Sir Darian at all is the type of person who doesn't travel without a few folks with him at any given point in time, separately from the PCs. Like I certainly have a squire, and I certainly have like someone who attends to some of my needs additionally. So I've got at least a couple folks with me. But yeah, I don't know. Do y'all have feelings about, from your characters or from your persons, about how many folks are with us?
I think the Moonlark would probably suggest sending, because there are multiple border forts, if I'm reading
Yeah.
right. So he may have suggested sending like a force to the sort of border forts that we thought a force could deal with. So like, you know,
Mhm.
whatever could spare to one of the quote unquote easier forts, and then send, you know, the A team to the one that needs the most help.
Mhm.
And the A team is us, obviously.
Absolutely. Okay, so you guys are heading to what is it called? The main, yeah. So you're heading to one of the forts. It is called Brook Hill. And as you're leading this column of, say, I reckon you've been given 100 soldiers total. You've sent one of them to one of the older forts on the east, and then you've headed to this one. You're riding along the road here. It is this part of the world is dusty and kind of relatively like 25, 50 miles north from where you are is the Crownlands proper, where like crops are capable of growing. But the area beyond the border forts, the duchy that the Cannibal Saint rules, is known as the Wasteland. There is said to be one tree that grows at the far end of it, in a castle called Prominence, where a knight supposedly lives. But apart from that, it is a barren, horrible wasteland, named accordingly. So it's dry and dusty here. It's not as bad as it's going to get, but you can already feel the influence of the curse that lies upon the land beyond you. The border forts themselves are kind of like quite squat and horrid buildings, but they've got like fortifications, parapets, and there's a cannon in each of them, a magic cannon made by an old wizard who served the king called the Rock Weaver. These cannons are fed using the corpses of the dead from the other army. So you feed them the dead, it means that the Cannibal Saints' armies can't eat them, and they also power our cannons. So it's some black and unpleasant magic that the people who man the forts are used to dealing with. You're probably heading towards the largest fort, where you know that Sir Catherine held her command. She is, that is kind of the one in the middle. It's the third of the 5 forts along the border. But as you are approaching it, you can see that there is a fort east of where you are. You know it to be called Creek, and you cannot see the king's banners flying from above it. The king of myth, his colors are lilac and crimson. That flies from the Brook fort that you know of. Whereas Creek, this one, the gates have been knocked down. You can see smoke rising from it, and the banners upon it are red and green, not red and lilac. So you know this one of these 5 forts has fallen to the Cannibal Saint in this assault. You don't have the troops with you to assault it now. You could try if you wanted, and there's probably reinforcements available at this fort you were heading for, but you are now aware that something bad is happening as you travel there. You can also see to your north smoke on the horizon back in the Crownlands. That means that somebody is out there raiding. That is not what you would expect. So someone has breached the forts and made their way into your sovereign lands. So there's 3 options here. You can either go to the big fort and find out what is what, head to the Brook fort. You can attempt to find out more of what is happening at Creek, or you can follow the smoke to the north and ride out immediately to deal with whoever is there doing what they are doing.
I mean, I think Sir Darian's initial impulse is 100% to whether or not we could reclaim this fort to try that. But I as a player would love to be diverted to either of the other 2 options. Would love to know how somebody convinces my character to go a different direction.
I mean, we were told to capture the fort, so we should capture the fort. They probably have whatever's happening in town dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, the tactical, like, if you've got a column of soldiers with you, right? You've got 50 men, I reckon, and the commander of the men says, we should go to the rest of the forts, work out more about what is happening, and then go from there. But, like, obviously, he's not in charge. You're in charge.
Right.
Specifically,
I comment on his cowardness and his hesitation very quickly.
Yeah. Like, he's sort of, you've got these. There's a very specific type of soldier that does well in the Mythic Army. It's the kind of dour, sensible guy who's like, no, Sir Galahad, do not go riding off that way.
Yeah.
Right? This is what we need to do. This is what our job is. He'll sort of say something like, oh, my lord, don't do this, do that, head over here. This is what our orders are. Obviously, he'll follow your every word if you command him. But,
I mean, I do think the easiest play is to get me to go investigate whoever's raiding is probably the easiest diversion.
I think Moonlark is team, like, let's go get more information, and probably says something like, it would be prudent for us to find out more about the current situation as we have just arrived and we know nothing of the surrounding fields and the surrounding situation. As a player, I don't really mind either way.
We're also so damn courteous. Kegan feels?
I faded out for a second here. I will follow the group.
Cool. Do you want to go find more information, or do you want to go find out about these raiders?
Oh yeah, let's go get more information.
Okay. So I think it's easy to, like, I don't think it's easy necessarily, but I think, cooler heads prevail. And so does that mean we're headed to the creek? Is that what we're doing, or what do we do?
Creek is the captured fort. The one you are after is called Brook Hill.
Brook Hill.
So you head into the fort, and you see on the horizon, you see the glint of a rifle pointing from the fort at you. You see the brief flash of a magnifying glass, and obviously it goes. They're not going to shoot at you. You recognize that you are soldiers of the king. The gates, as you approach, open, and inside are it's a sorry sight. Like, there's wounded people in here. There's a lot of milling about. The mood is low, and they are terse, the people here. You sort of see what looks to be some kind of, like, a sergeant or maybe a lieutenant or something will sort of look at you and say, reinforcements from the capital. Glad to have you here. Sorry, I forgot the name of the guy. Korth is here. He's up on the tower. He'll want to speak with you. He's he's basically pointed you towards his commanding officer, and then the rest of the men with you, they sort of start helping, carrying things about, tending to the wounded, like offering, like basically building themselves in and working out what's going on. Yes, the officer who's with you, sorry,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, the officer who's with you starts sort of barking some orders, and they all start moving around pretty seamlessly to sort of help out this quite. The mood feels terse and desperate here.
I understand your relief, and then I'll whip my cloak around and head off towards the commanding officer.
Cool. So this guy, Korth, have any of you guys been to these forts before? This is just a yes. This is has no impact upon you. You're happy to say yes if you feel like your character would have been on a military border before.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think I have either.
I was going to say yeah, but probably in like peace. Well, whatever counts for peacetime.
Yeah. So Korth is very much one of these soldiers I was talking about earlier, these kind of determined fellas. His reputations, because he's got them the same way you are, some NPCs do, are experienced, efficient, uncharismatic. He's standing in front of a map with a couple guys with him, scratching a real horrible beard, and like looks up at you and says, Reinforcements from the capital. Glad you're here. It's good to have a knight back. Sir Darian?
Correct.
Good to have you here. Things are not good here. Freak has fallen. Sir Catherine is dead. And Sir Halston has fled during the night. I know not where she is. She left no message. Creek has fallen. Points over to the fort. I'm sure you see the banners. Sir Rangvid holds it now. And I can see from the parapet that the Gourmand, the giant who killed Sir Catherine, is now roaming in the north, raiding the Crown lands. I don't have the men to retake that fortress. They have a couple hundred men inside it now, and I barely have 50 inside here, and the other forts are not doing well either. We were defeated in a pitched battle, and I'm not sure what we should do. I think the doom is here.
Well,
He's kind of sorry, go on, Tony.
well, certainly sitting here and doing nothing isn't helping. You know that there is a giant raiding into the north, and your answer was just to sit back and let it happen.
We had an attack against this fortress yesterday. We held it. We're running low on gunpowder and supplies. If I send 30 of my men, like half my troops out, I don't think we'll be able to hold the next assault. I'd be leaving mostly wounded here if I sent a force out to deal with the Gourmand. But if you think that is the course, so well be it. I'll lend you what men I have, and you can ride out and put them to the sword.
I look at my two compatriots, gently rolling my eyes at this gentleman's very reasonable advice.
Well, it's certainly reasonable advice. I mean, my entire addition to this.
Moolark has been sort of half listening to the conversation and looking at the map, trying to spot any sort of like strategic advantages that they could make from the terrain.
Okay. The lands around here are like hilly and kind of horrid, frankly. There is a river basin that kind of runs along the border forts that kind of, it's very dried out. There are 2 rivers in this whole kingdom because the only way to get consistent water is through this thing called a wizard font that basically involves magic, water appearing because of magic, not because of rainfall. The stuff gets worse the further you get into the far west and the further you get into Visage. There are a couple of landmarks kind of pointed out. You see that there's what looks like a swamp or a lake or something, and there's also a big hill marked with a tree on it. Those are like the 2 main features you can see on there, alongside what you would guess is a wizard's tower of some kind. Those are the things you're kind of spotting. There are a few other bits as well, but that's kind of the information. The Korth kind of sees you looking at the map and sort of says, is there if you have any questions about our situation, ask away and I'll be happy to oblige. He's like reticent about the fact that you are a wizard, and wizards are like smart, scary people who do weird things. Doesn't really know what to think of you, but he's like trying to be helpful.
I think very like cryptically, Moonlark just kind of nods and doesn't say anything, and then turns back to the other two.
I'm just gonna point at what looks like a wizard tower and be like, can you do anything with that? Yeah.
How
Kegan,
far away is
your,
it?
your character knows all of the stories, being a bard. You would know that to be the tower of a wizard known as the Wheel Lock. No, sorry, the wizard is called the Muzzled. His tower is called Wheel Lock. He used to make guns for the Mythic Army. He was like allied with Myth. But when the rebellion happened and this part of the land was swept into war, he kind of declared himself neutral and now shoots anybody who comes within about 3 miles of his tower. So it's just like an angry hermit wizard.
Wait, this is such an idea. All right.
It's the best type of neutrality, the type where I'll shoot anyone who comes near me.
So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is if we can route this army near his tower, he can just shoot them for us.
100%. Yeah, that's on the cards. So those three. So okay, the thing that kind of would happen at this point, right, is that you guys would decide upon a quest, right? The obvious three here are that this guy is running through the Crownlands, sacking the basically villages and farms north of here. This castle needs taking, and because the other thing is, and Cortland will explain this as you're talking. Unless we stop that fortress, more raiding parties can just pass through the forts, right? So this would just be the first of them. If we kill those raiders, it's dealing with the symptom, not the cause, which is that there's a hole in the border. And he says the same. Like, you're welcome to do it. The reason I haven't done it yet is that that's just the first 50 guys, right? And there'll be more coming as we go. The third thing is that this knight, Sir Halston, the Oak, is meant to be commanding this fort, and you've been sent to reinforce her, but Corp said she has disappeared during the night. Finding her is another quest you guys could go on. So if we were playing this game over like 3 to 6 weeks, right? Each one of these quests would be something we do as a session, and then eventually we'd be rallying enough of an army to like head and actually go into the either deal with, like, there'd be a battle of some kind, right? Who knows where. And each one of those things could be a whole quest, right? But at the moment, if you go on one of these quests, there'll be different smaller things you can do on the way to get there, and that will earn you these something called showdown tokens, which will be used in the challenge. So essentially what we want to do here for pacing purposes is pick one of these quests and then decide to do that one and head there and see what happens. I'm happy, obviously, with all three of them. The one that hasn't and won't yet have been played on stream is chasing down this knight. But I'm obviously happy doing any of them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always happy to do a new thing also too. It'll be the question of how do you keep Sir Darian from just wanting to go and do the violence? As you know,
violence will always be available to Sir Darian.
Yeah, as you know, he is often want to do. I mean, the obvious violence, right? That's where he tends to lean. But I actually really, that going and tracking down this person actually, for me as a player, is probably the most interesting out of them also too.
Yeah, I'm happy to go search this. I was going to say this player down, this knight down.
Yeah, I can even make an argument for it.
Oh, let's
hear.
Which
is for in character. I think Moonlark probably, sagely folds their hands and says, "We could always use another knight. An extra set of hands would give us more options to deal with the other two problems."
It's true. And there'll probably be people with that giant, so it might be hard for me to handle them alone.
That is true.
Okay. Right. So that's where we're going then. That's what we're going to do. We're going to try find Sir Halston the Oak.
Yeah, I like
Perfect.
that. Does since there are reputations, what do we know about Sir Halston?
Great question. Let me grab her reputations. Technically, this isn't in the quick start. I don't really mind because I've also written a whole other book that I could use. So we are slightly off piste, but that doesn't matter. The other thing you can do is you go look for Excalibur. That's what I had to convince the players not to do the last time I ran this on stream. I was like, yeah, you could go looking for Excalibur, but
I like how you bring it up anyways. You could. It's the thing I try to convince everyone not to do.
You know, I bet Excalibur's in that wild wizard's tower we just saw. That's the thing that makes sense. I think we should go visit the gun wizard.
So one of the things that your characters can do is, well, the thing with the setting is that the king of myth is the king of myth because our Arthur equivalent, Salazar, married an incredibly powerful face sorceress called the Lakebound, who's kind of a bit of a Lady of the Lake riff. And she gave him, as a wedding gift, the handgun, the Ironwood, which bestows the person who wields it the right to be king of myth. Malavan had it, but it disappeared following his death. And Rebane, your king, your boy king, is not old enough to go out on a quest and go grab it. So he's currently not like the legal holder of the throne. Well, he's the son and it's genetic, but he hasn't got the magic handgun that says he's good. So one of the things that some of the knights are doing is like, this king is bad. I deserve to be king. I should go and I should go find the handgun. But for some reason, none of them are able to finish the quest. Who knows why? But it's definitely something that about a third of the mythic order, the errant order, are running around myth as everything is collapsing, trying to find this handgun. Which is, they're all on sort of wild virtue quests attempting to save the world, which feels very Arthurian to me in a way that I enjoy. But yeah.
If we just focused on actually doing what we're supposed to do and improving the lives of individuals, we might actually pull this out. But what if instead we pursued
the gun wizard and looked for Excalibur?
So we're going to go and look for Sir Halston. Okay, what are Sir Halston's reputations that I was looking at? I can't tell you these because they have changed recently in a way that you would not be aware of. So what I would say is that she's a famous giant slayer. She has killed huge monsters before. A legendary giant king called Ulai the Weeper. She's deserted her post, though. I would say the reputations you would know her as is valiant, distracted, and pious. She is slightly not really with it all the time, is often thinking about other things, but is an incredibly capable warrior. And
about killing giants.
Spent a lot of time in the company of Sir Catherine. Sir Catherine was, where are her reputations? She was known to be valiant, harrowed, and regretful. She used to be an advisor to the Lord of Visage before they were all killed, and has basically commanded the war ever since, and has now been defeated by this half giant. One of the if Korth, you say to Korth, we need to find this other knight, he will say you need to go to her quarters and suggest you go to her quarters and see what she has in there. So
I switch my cape around and head towards her quarters.
Cool. Okay, these are a set of incredibly Spartan accommodations. She's got a small room in a you've got a small room kind of in the tower. You open into it, and the bed has not been slept in. It's been made, and it looks very neat, and it doesn't look like someone who ran away during the night. Roll. I think this is good. Like, investigating this room, I think needs to be some kind of challenge. So I think we should go through here because there's things happening here. Okay, so who is going to do this bit of investigation, do we reckon?
I have got a reputation for being perceptive.
Excellent. That sounds good. Okay, so what we're going to do is we basically go down a list of questions on page 3 of the quick start, and we're going to build a dice pool. You're going to roll all those dice, and then we'll see what the consequence, the kind of how many dice you have, and then if you roll a 1 to 3 from the highest of those dice, you fail, and some kind of consequence we agree happens. If you roll a 4 to 5, you pass, and you get one of these showdown tokens on this quest to find Sir Halston. And if you roll a 6, you don't suffer the consequence, and you still get that showdown token. So let's go down the list. Do you have a reputation that will help you? You do. We just said you've got perceptive, which is going to help you looking. Do you have any equipment that's going to help you on this exploration? Any stuff you've brought with you? Again, normally you'd have like a full set of character, but we've kind of not generated that here. So if you can feasibly tell me something you might have beneath the big folds of your wizard cloak that are going to help you solve this investigation problem, I'm happy to hear it.
I mean, I feel like, some sort of investigative, like, magnifying glass type thing might be...
Yeah, a wizard having a magnifying glass makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, you got dice there. You can kind of get a point. You can put yourself at risk to succeed if the threat increases. I don't think that makes sense here. There's no way you can put yourself at risk while doing this exploration. You don't have a reputation that's going to hinder you. You don't lose a d6. This task is not unusually dangerous, and you're not facing this challenge alone, away from your cadre. So, got 2 dice. Let's see a check with 2d6. But first,
right.
I need to work out what happens if you fail this. I think the threat of this quest will increase if this goes badly. But we'll see. The risk is you don't find an Ellie. Yeah, you got it.
We don't find any leads.
No. But no. So roll those 2d6 and see what happens.
All right. We got a 6 and a 3.
6 and a 3, you've got it. Okay, so the things you notice is that this room is like dusty. Nobody sleeps here. This bed has not been made. There is nothing in any of the drawers. It is immaculate to the point where you're like questioning if someone was even here at any point in the last couple of weeks. That is a piece of information. You've been told by Korth this was her quarters. She didn't sleep here.
How long ago did she supposedly disappear? Last night?
Last night, yeah.
Okay.
Well, if she hasn't been sleeping here, we should probably... do we know of anybody who worked like more specifically with her, under her? She had like a page, something like that. A squire, that's the word I was looking for.
She doesn't have a squire. But you could ask the soldiers about her.
Was she promoted? Like, was she already here and got promoted up, or did she come here after Catherine the Tall had died?
They served together. They were known to be very good friends.
Okay.
And they manned this post together. Most knights spend a lot of time by themselves. These 2 knights they often served in the same point. At the same challenge, which here has been Sir Halston supporting Sir Catherine in this defense of the forts for the past 5 years.
And Catherine died when?
About a week ago. No, she died 2 days ago.
2 days
Uh-huh.
ago.
Sorry. You will have been sent to reinforce her by somebody who knew that she was going to die and that you would be by a prophet.
Okay.
One of the king wizards would have said, Sir Catherine is going to die. Send reinforcements to the border forts.
That's
We
the
can't stop
most
it.
convenient advantage ever, by the way. Like, we know this
Right.
bad thing is going to happen. Let's go ahead and
Well,
take care of it.
But the thing is that you know it's going to happen, but you can't affect the outcome.
Oh no, 100%. Like, I'm just like from
Yeah.
a logistics standpoint, it's like we're gonna go ahead. That package is gonna get lost in the mail. We can't change that. Let's go ahead and send another one so it gets there 2 days
Yeah.
later.
Tony, you're really thinking about shipping logistics?
I
in
am thinking
time
a lot
like
about
this?
shipping logistics right now for no reason. Yeah, I think. I mean, do y'all wanted to talk to some people at the? You wanted to talk to some of the soldiers?
Yeah, just if she wasn't sleeping, I want to see if anyone, I don't know, saw her walking around late at night, hanging upside down from the ceiling like a bat, you know.
Normal stuff.
Who knows? It could be anything. I think she's a ghost.
You could probably grab one of the soldiers and say, "Hey, it doesn't look like she sleeps in there." Do you do that?
Yeah.
Cool. They kind of look very awkwardly at each other, and
She sleeps with the other night. I got you.
That was
It
my
didn't-
guess as well.
We were all on the same page
there's a
here.
bit of they kind of look at each other and go, "Are we meant to do this?" Yeah. That is indeed. They when you say that, they go, "Yes." Oh God, we don't want to say, but yeah.
Yeah, no, okay. I had the vibe.
One of them sort of says, one of these soldiers says, she didn't take Sir Catherine's death very well.
I
don't
put my
know
hand on
much.
their shoulder and I say, "Death is never easy, but ideally it's glorious." And then I just turn and whip around and walk the other way.
Okay, great. So we should be looking for Sir Catherine's bedroom.
Yeah.
I mean, is it commander's quarters? Like, is it like, hey, we've been at enough
It's
forts?
slightly bigger. It's got like a double bed rather than a
Right.
single bed. You know, it's slightly better.
Oh yeah, but I just
yeah.
meant like
Really-
like it's usually pretty easy to find out where the commander at a base lives because
Yeah, yeah.
it's also kind of a
This room is substantially more lived in.
Yeah.
This you have a you have a dig around. There are a bunch of like small personal effects. Sorry, I just saw the chat. This is the room with the Ennie. You see there's a couple of like effects of Sir Catherine that have kind of been bunched up. Her armor is here. A set of armor and then some other stuff. There aren't any like clues, but you can see that a bag has been packed of some kind, like a satchel has been filled with a bunch of stuff from one of the drawers, and there's no weapons or anything. So she didn't leave in a hurry. This was planned. She's gone out somewhere. At the moment, you know she's left. You kind of have gathered, I imagine, why she's left from these soldiers. She didn't take it very well. She's gone somewhere.
Oh yeah.
But you're not exactly sure where she's going.
quick world question. What happens to dead bodies in this world besides getting shot out of cannons? Like, is there a normal way a pious knight would be interred?
Well, Sir Catherine specifically,
Yeah.
we know her body did not make it back to the fortress, which means that she's probably being eaten right now. Generally speaking, what you would do is you would bury a body, but you would either burn someone or you would bury them in a tomb that isn't made of permeable stone to kind of prevent the dead from rising.
Okay.
Because necromancy is a big thing that people have tried to avoid in the setting. If her body was taken back to Knight's Home, there is specifically a very well protected graveyard there called the Row of Tombs, where all the sort of knights and heroes are buried in big slate mausoleums. from stone that is imported from incredibly distant lands because it specifically prevents the birth of the undead. You have been told that her corpse was captured and she's probably being taken back to I mean, from the Cannibal Saint, when he's killed, when knights have died fighting him in the past, he's had feasts with the bodies.
Okay.
He's taken them back, and they've been part of some grand feast that he would held.
That's a shame because I believe Sir Catherine would have loved to be ammunition.
That's the kind of thing she'd have been down for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I were in her position and I was a famed giant killer and a giant killed my girlfriend, I would hunt the giant now.
I was
Left me-
wondering where the body would be going. If it was going back to feast, it would be going to Visage.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, because I think that's the question: is do we think she went after the body, or do we think she's going after revenge? And I'm gonna metagame. Since they are two separate quests. I mean, I don't. I mean, it could just be that they interlock and the GM just cleverly railroads us with the illusion of choice.
Right.
But let's pretend that isn't happening right now, even if it is the case.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, I am immediately inclined to think she went after the body, actually. Like, because why pack a bag? If you're just going to go fight a giant, why pack a bag?
She didn't take the bag, no?
Is the bag there?
Oh, no, Catherine's stuff has all been like put nicely in a pile
Gotcha,
for them to
gotcha.
deal with. Whereas she's obviously packed a bag. You can see some drawers pulled
Yeah.
out, and she's gone.
That was my understanding. We could tell she had packed a bag, not that the bag was sitting there waiting.
I thought
Yeah,
the bag was. I thought the bag was still here and was like, yeah, she went on a one way.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so for me, the bag being packed indicates not necessarily I'm going out to fight something. And if you're going out to fight a giant, why not just tell everybody, I'm going to go fight that giant. I am a literal giant slayer. I'm going to go kill the giant that killed the person, our boss. And so / the person I love.
You put a note on the fridge.
Yeah.
BRB fighting giant.
Yeah. I mean, I'm inclined to think that she's going after the body. So I think, following the advice of our sagacious Moonlark friend, I would definitely be inclined to head into the far wastes in pursuit of her.
Hell yeah. Cool, let's do it. Right, okay. This is interesting. Need to think about this. Sorry.
Tony, you pulled us too far off the rails.
No, it's perfect. It's all good.
It's the best type of energy.
Trying to work out how much to quantum ogre this problem. Just like, I know that something different has happened in the version of the setting, but I also think this is a really good story for a quest. So I think let's do that, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, we're going into the wastelands to try and look for the grave look for the body of Sir Catherine and find Sir Houston as we do so. Okay, perfect. Right. Okay, let's go through some stuff you guys have gathered from your information about what she's doing and where she's going. 2 showdown tokens. Okay. What these do is basically they're going to give you a bonus in this challenge. The way a challenge works is it's not a dice pool. It is instead a challenge is the dice pool thing that we've already done one of. This is something called the showdown, which is our final confrontation. We're not there yet, but I just want you to make sure you understand the calculations that go into it. What you're looking for is a number of, like a score that you're looking for a certain window to hit, right? The way this is calculated is the threat for this quest, how dangerous it is currently a 9. And you guys have gathered 2 what we call showdown tokens. What then happens is that as you do more challenges, you can gain additional showdown tokens. And as the quest gets more dangerous because of you failing these challenges, the threat for the quest increases as well. What is then happening is that the showdown tokens are making a partial success window by basically, we've got 2 down showdown tokens. The threat is 9. If you now roll a 7 or an 8, you can get a partial success in the challenge. And you're rolling a single d6 to do that, which sounds very difficult, getting a 7, an 8, or a 9 on 1d6. The reason for that is that you have to offer cost for this to occur. Costs are the thing that goes wrong in this fight, what you are prepared to lose while attempting to defend myth in this battle. What could go wrong? The bigger thing you are prepared to go badly, the bigger bonus you get on your roll. It can be anywhere up to a +5. So you might actually, if you propose an enormous cost, be adding 5 to your roll, and instead of needing a 7 or an 8 or a 9 on your dice, you actually only need like a 3 or a 4, right? If you can add a huge cost. Costs can be lots of different things, but the main examples are to do with gaining, losing, or changing your reputations as a result of your actions. And this is like how what happens in this confrontation is related to your conduct in it, relates to how they're perceived at court. So, for example, you might be replacing one of your reputations with something that is worse or different, or adding a new bad reputation because you fucked it up in this encounter. So can I swear, Tony? I just asked. Yeah, cool.
No, pull that one back in.
Yeah, but I just realised I hadn't asked yet, which is something I need to get into a better habit of doing while live streaming. It can be the second thing that can happen is the loss or destruction of your allies, equipment, locations, or things important to you. There is a whole kingdom worth of things that can die before the end of this campaign. So those are totally things that can go wrong as you are playing. The final one is this: if you were playing a longer campaign, the situation could worsen and we could add threat onto a different quest, right, as you complete this one. So what will there's like lots of other examples of what that could be specifically, but generally it'll be your reputation's changing or something bad happening within the story as a result of them. That then gets you a bonus, which you can then add up. So you basically and if you roll more than the threat of the quest in total, that thing that would have been bad doesn't happen at all, right? So if you roll a +5, you've got your +5, and you roll more than a 9 after that bonus, which is what the threat of the quest is currently, the bad thing doesn't happen, which is why you're incentivized to come up with these big, exciting, dangerous costs that could happen to your characters. The only caveat is if you roll a 1, you always fail. So even if you do a big cost, sometimes it's going to happen because this setting is about bad things happening to people because of the nature of the story. So yeah, at the moment, you guys have got 2 showdown tokens and 9 threat. If the situation for this quest to resolve would appear, then it's entirely possible that you could attempt a showdown now with reasonable chances of success. We should probably play for a bit longer and wait for that showdown to appear in a sort of narratively satisfying way. So you guys are going to have to find Sir Helston, venture into wild enemy territory filled with terrible things. Traveling in here is dangerous, and there is a question of if you're going to head out now to catch her before it's too late, or do you wait for the next dawn, and are you taking soldiers with you? Are you going by yourself? What's the scheme?
I mean, we're already a day behind.
Yeah, I was going to say,
She left this morning, and it's probably late afternoon now.
Yeah, I think we should leave as soon as possible so we don't end up further behind. But if she left by herself, Perhaps bringing an entire army with us attracts undue attention.
Did she take a horse or is she on foot? This was a stealth exit, correct?
Yeah, she's got her horse.
Okay.
Her horse is a horse you would know because she's one of the more famous knights. And I said that really confidently, thinking I was looking at the information about what her horse was. I was not. Her horse is named. Gotta really stuff this one up, guys. Oath is the horse. So, yeah, she will have left on Oath, her horse, and probably is trying to chase down those guys now. Okay, cool. So you're heading out immediately and not bringing an entourage with you.
I think as a player, I'm definitely with that. I think Moonlark would probably say we should do some preparations. We should take an hour. We should get our supplies. But honestly,
I say, of course, and then I turn around and I swish my cloak and head to my horse.
Preparation. We're gonna cast some spells.
we could.
Have we talked yet about how your magic works,
We have
Graham?
not.
We have not.
Okay, so you can command starlight and the tides, which in this specific setting tend to relate to the tides of moonlight and the tides of the desert, like sandstorms and stuff like that. Your ability to cast magic doesn't get you any bonuses in a showdown or a challenge. The only thing it does is allow larger things to happen on a narrative scale, right? And open up new and more interesting forms of weird consequence that can happen if they go wrong. So were you to invoke the name of Starlight, you could, make the stars shine brighter than they are currently. You could stop them from shining. You could blind your opponents. You could cast a comet at someone or something ridiculous like that. And if you were to use the word of tide, you can create and stop sandstorms. Wind will affect things differently. If you use your words together, you can also combine them to make a tide of starlight. God knows what that would look like. It would be quite apocalyptic, allow silly things to happen. And also, if you were to do that in a challenge, introduce lots of new consequences about what happens when the stars move. So you're welcome to attempt that in any. Okay, so I'm going to roll some random encounters as you head out into this desert, but I have dropped my dice on the floor about 2 hours ago. And I need to find it. Assuming I did drop it on the floor. This is real annoying. Okay, can one of you folks please kindly roll me a pair of d6 and let me know what both of the dice are?
6 and a 4.
6 and a 4. Oh, heavens. That's an exciting one.
Oh no.
Okay,
It's a 1 and a 2.
So, you guys ride out into the wastelands. It is known that there is no water here, no plants grow. Most of the citizens of these lands are either mad or dead. Members of the Endless Hordes wander its dry land, awaiting the final command of the cannibal saint to march upon myth for war. There are still some people who are like loyalists to the crown or villagers or survivors, or indeed like independent like gangs of roamers, or which are like bandits in the setting, or like people who don't acknowledge royalty, basically, and big civilization in towns and cities and stuff. And also guys like the muzzled, who is just chilling out in the desert making fancy magic and guns and stuff. As you journey out, as night falls, you hear sounds in the distance, well beyond the horizon, but you can see smoke and fire like beyond what you can actually see, even from like the tops of hills you occasionally go on as you're kind of looking, because what you're looking for is essentially like some kind of column of people transporting a body, or indeed traces of Sir Catherine or Sir Houston. But you can hear now smoke pluming on the horizon, distant war cries, and fires burning in the light. This is from a wide field. You know that it's a place called Charnel, and it is basically where the Horde gathers to celebrate victories and mourn defeats. They're celebrating that they won this battle. You don't think that, like, knowing that a knight as mighty as Sir Catherine has been killed, this is not where the cannibal saint would hold the feast. He would instead, in the city of Visage, where he dwells, there is a cathedral that is his seat of power. It's the temple to his dark god. Desecrated the temple of another religion known as the Shadow Keeper, and then established his own dark magics within it. He would most certainly have that event occur there rather than at Charnel. But you know that they're celebrating this victory. And what will happen over the next few days is that all of the soldiers from that battle, all of the members of the Endless Horde, will be heading towards Creek and then out into the Crown Lands and eventually your civilization. But that's far away for now. You can just hear you can hear it, and you know you are there. You pass through the ruins of a village. It is you can't remember the name of the town that was here, and there's no sign of it. It's abandoned. It's a ghost town. But you see in the distance, you hear, in fact, a town crier who's sort of heading through this town, mounted on a horse with a bell on a stick. And it's a horrible horse. It's a maggot-bitten horse. This guy's shaking a big stick, ringing a bell, and shouting, "Hail the victories! Hail to the saint!" And is sort of chanting about this battle that's been won. The coward Sir Catherine defeated by the mighty hero, the Gourmand. This guy is a tale weaver of some kind, right? He's a bard. He's dressed in, I mean, it's probably human skin, guys. You're not certain from this distance, but it's some kind of leather. And with him are two soldiers carrying banners, heralds of some fashion, dressed in armor and uniform that is a mockery of your own military's garb, but still something to interact with. He's not noticed you. He's mainly just shouting. What do you guys do?
I look at Mary and I say, before I do anything, do you want to challenge him to some sort of weird storytelling duel or something like that?
No, I'd like to shoot him though.
Cool.
Hey!
They stop, and there is a moment of, huh? This bard, if you can call him that, this town crier, draws an oversized pistol. This isn't a wizard pistol like yours. It wasn't gifted to you by the Parliament of the Owls. The Chancellor himself, Rollenbury, gifted you the handgun Truth. And so, just to give context for that one, in Inevitable, one of the stupid things that I insist on happening, because as the writer of it, I get to do stuff like this, there are political factions within the setting that are named after the group nouns for birds. So within myth, there is a tower of falcons and a soar of eagles and a parliament of owls. You know that not far from here is the wake of the vultures, and there are in various other places of the world a conspiracy of ravens, a chorus of songbirds, a crown of kingfishers, and a murder of crows.
You don't have to. You never have to convince a +1 EXP crew to be into bird stuff being inserted into a game. Like we're universally pretty down for it.
So yeah, the Chancellor of the Owls himself gifted you your handgun. Whereas what this guy has is what's called a fire tube, which essentially is a musket. And he sort of levels it at you and says, and kind of, have you, where are you when you shout this? Are you in the middle of the road? You just shout, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm just here in my, formal court wear on a pristine white horse, shouting hey at a man in a leather human suit.
Fashion.
You are trespassers within the land of the great cannibal saint. And he just starts shouting at you while
I'm not
waving
a
a pistol at you.
trespasser. I'm Mari. Pleasure's yours.
He kind of he's trying to draw you into a weird tail weaver battle.
Yeah, that's 100% why I asked to begin with.
He's absolutely trying to like bait you. What stories do you know, or something like that? Trying to get you into a riddle contest. What is your approach going to be here? Do you want to shoot this guy?
No, what I want to do is, I feel like I am trying to draw fire. Maybe not literally fire, but I would like them to focus on me so my friends can stab them or shoot them, or I don't know.
Good,
shoot the
yeah.
star in
So
their direction.
No, that's 100% because I was just ready to charge this guy as soon as it was on. So if that is what you were trying to do, like, yeah, I 100% as they start this exchange.
Let's see a challenge for this then, I think. So, do you have a reputation that's going to help you during this distraction?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue the thing that's going to help me here is I am duplicitous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That works. Do you have any equipment that's going to help you in this weird bard duel you're attempting to do?
I absolutely do. I have precious silver hand chimes used to accompany my songs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How are you going to put yourself at risk to succeed here?
I think
if you want to.
I think unfortunately I am in the line of fire here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you fail this, you're going to get shot at. And importantly, that doesn't just mean that you're going to get shot. It's going to be loud. People are going to hear it. Right. So that is definitely a risk if this goes badly. Okay, cool. So do you have any reputations that will hinder you? You are craven.
I am craven.
I think that's going to be a -1 dice for you here because this is something that a scared person wouldn't do, or at least do a good job of. You're putting yourself in the line of fire. Like, I'm happy for you to contest that, but I think you're losing a dice for that.
No, that's extremely fair.
Okay. Is this task unusually dangerous? It's one man with a gun dressed in human skin and 2 halberdiers. This is not a coalition or a demon or an army. This is standard fare for you. And you've also got your friends with you. Do you face this challenge alone away from your cadre? No, you've still got your friends with you as well, even if they're attempting a slightly different maneuver. So this one thing here is going to get you it's a single check. We don't need to, if what you do here works, what the others need to do will not be complicated. So you're doing a 2 dice check. You had 3 and you lost 1 for Craven. So roll 2 dice. Give me the highest.
That's a 6.
That's a 6. Fantastic work. Okay, cool. So what's going to happen here is you gain a showdown token. And so, the town crier waves his bell and kind of sees that you've got your own bell and tries to wave his harder and engages in this sort of weird tail weaver battle where he tries to like stake what his greatest tales are, and he sort of says, I was there, I witnessed the false companion of myth be defeated by the gourmand. Oh, mighty is his. And then what when he finishes his spiel, what do you say back?
I am telling him about my horse Celine's latest dressage battle. It's not the sort of tale I would usually tell here, but I do feel like it's the most distracting tale I can tell here.
Cool. The two soldiers are like, what are these two people doing? And one of them sort of like grabs the guy by the arm. They've both got their halberds like pointed. The banners they've got are like draping on the ground now. They don't care about banners. They're mainly using them as pointy sticks. And they're sort of like walking towards you like, what are you doing? And one of them's like tapping the guy on the hand like, shoot him with your gun, you fool. And he doesn't do it. And at this point, Grahame, Tony, which one of you is going to do the sort of this again? This isn't a roll. It's already worked.
Oh yeah, no, this is 100% like he turns to tap the other one on the shoulder like as they're doing this, and then as like the camera like mildly pans towards that action, like you can see me in the distance, like 10 or 15 feet away. Then as it pans back over, I'm just standing there right next to the guy, and I just stab him.
Tony, I really thought you were going to say what happened is he actually tapped you on the shoulder.
He tapped me on the shoulder. That's good also.
So yeah, as you are there and you stab him, the herald falls off his horse screaming. Do you kill him, or are you just trying to stab him a bit so he's injured?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I just killed this guy.
Okay, cool.
Like given the stakes of where we're at and the people and the way these people are presenting, I don't think my character has any lack of compunction about just ending.
You're at war. This is reasonable. Yeah. Okay, so you're able to quite handily kill this guy, and then you are also able to deal with one of the guys with the halberds, the one close to you, who attempts some stuff. And with Anderlight, I reckon your sword just goes through the halberd and just kills the second guy. The other one tries to surrender and sort of says, "No, I yield." And like at this point, you have the opportunity to ask him some questions from which you could extract a showdown token's worth of information were you to wish to.
Let's do that.
I was going to be like, don't do it. Don't do it. Just stab him.
No, I mean, like, I don't have any problem killing, but if they are yielding, then I will, as a valiant knight, not just kill them.
I guess we're not all craven.
We're not all craven.
So, he sort of he bends. He tells you. You say to him, "We're looking for Sir Catherine. Where is she?" Right.
We're looking for Sir Catherine. We're Sir Catherine's body is what we're tracking, correct? And then we're actually following Sir Houston. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Okay. You ask him questions of those nature.
Correct.
He sort of said, "Oh, I haven't seen any knights around here. Not new, that's not my. But I know that Sir Partruth arrived at the creek this morning and was here to take the body back to Visage. So I'm going to tell you about some false knights now. The commander of the Cannibal Saints army is a guy who is called Sir Rangvid the Decrepit. He used to be one of the Knights Errant, but he defected and joined the Cannibal Saint and abandoned his post as Knight of the King. He is he basically commands the King's armies and he commands the Cannibal Saints armies and also does all of his diplomacy for him. He's pretends to be a knight. He marches around with all this finery. He has heralds like this guy, and then like bannermen, and will go to myth to treat with the king, and just while taking the piss and mocking him and doing everything he can. So he's hated and reviled by the people of myth, because of their sort of laws around hospitality, they can't just kill this guy when he walks over the wall, right? When he's here with his knights and his heralds, he's actually allowed to be here because of the tradition of how you fight battles against enemies. His squire was a guy called Parchruth. And Parchruth's job is that he is the major domo of the Cannibal Saint's household and is in charge of preparing meals for him and sort of manages the kitchens. So Sir Parchruth's title is that he is the fine host. And he has been, it sounds like, well, what this guy's saying is that Parchruth came to the castle, to Crete, and then took Sir Catherine's body back to Visage. So he is going to be somewhere. He is the person who has what you and Catherine want, and that is where he will be going. She will be going, rather. So that's your showdown token. You're after Sir Parchruth, the fine host, a squire to Sir Rangvid, who's now a false knight of his own. One of the things that the Cannibal Saint does is because he thinks he should be king of myth, he gathers knights to his cause. He's often tried to convert knights from the king's court by sort of coercion and bribery and seduction, but obviously it doesn't work because any good knight would laugh at his offers. This is the guy that you are now looking for. His reputation is that he is stuttering, sarcastic, and laughing. He is known to be, like Sir Rangvid, his master, and the other knight, a very nasty guy. Okay. I need to go to the bathroom. So should we call our 5 minutes?
Let's take a 5-minute break.
I think right now is a great time to take a break.
That's good.
Yeah.
We are currently playing Inevitable. While we're taking that break, you should head over to ttrpg.link/inevitableks. Check out the campaign, which is right now currently funded. Only has a couple days left, though, so it's a great time to hop in, check it out, and consider backing at any level that you want to check it out. But if you're enjoying the Arthurian Western vibes that we're exploring here, check them out. We'll be back in about 5 minutes to keep on playing. We're back playing Inevitable, a doomed Arthurian Western RPG that's live right now over on Kickstarter. You can head to ttrpg.link/inevitableks. We're tracking into enemy territory after a knight who is going after the body of their dead lover. Like you do sometimes when you play a game. Also, it was not apparently the intended choice, but Jelly's doing a phenomenal job just rolling with it and making it work. Also,
It's all. I mean, I the thing is that this makes more sense than what I put in the book. So, the book. The thing is with role playing games is that what you think of the first time isn't always right, because generally, and like this is something really important as. And this is just, I'm going to just do GM advice.
Yeah,
right now.
do it.
Yeah,
We love it.
That generally speaking, when you come up with a plan, right, you're one reasonably smart person, right? But you're not going to come up with as many ideas as three reasonably smart people or more who you're playing for, right? So sometimes if a player says like, oh yeah, I reckon this is happening, I'm like, damn, that's so much better than what I wrote. And, if you're playing an old, certain types of game where the narrative needs to exist in a really certain way and the world that you're simulating a world, not a story, and that's bad verisimilitude, if you acknowledge that things change when people have ideas, then maybe you do it your way and the players get something wrong. But I think it's important to understand that sometimes plans have to change on the fly. And if it makes a more interesting story, and what this game is about is telling mythology of the end of a civilization, right? And we know that mythology changes over time when people read it and they go, no, I'd have done this different, and never mind working out how to tell the best story is important. So yeah, I'm happy to have my plans scattered to the winds.
I just love the progression of the conversation was, oh, we've never done this one, and I'm like, well, we're still not, even though
we're still not doing it. No, it's there's a different way this would work. So if you're running the this quick start on the internet that you can get right now, Sir Halston goes into a zine I did called Silent Dead Falls, which is set in the Cradle Range, a different part of Myth, in the northwest of the map for the zine. And you can use that to expand the setting of this Western adventure if you don't want to wait for the full book when it comes out in July or something, when we're finally done. Because there's a couple of pamphlets that I wrote back in 2021 and then decided after I wrote them to add them back into Inevitable. So yeah, you can find those on the Soul Muppet itch page if you fancy checking out Silent Dead Falls, which is where we would have gone if we had more time. That's what the quest was meant to be. Anyway, yeah. So we're in enemy territory. We've made our way into the wastelands. Sir Darian the Moonlark and Mari the Balladeer have made their way into these wastelands, hunting a knight, Sir Halston the Oak, who is chasing after the body of her lover, Sir Catherine the Tall, who has died in a recent battle. We know that following the defeat of Sir Catherine, her body was captured by the forces of the Cannibal Saint, the rebellious traitors who serve a dark and terrible god of cannibalism. And Sir Parchroof the Fine Host is the false knight who is dragging or who's taking her body back to Visage, the city where the Cannibal Saint lives, assumedly to be prepared in some kind of dark and horrible feast. So we're looking for him now. You've been told by this group of courtiers, this final guy, we don't need to say what happens to the final guy that you decide whether you let him live or not. That's fine. We can just move on to the next scene. Okay, are you guys going to keep you know now you are looking for a for this guy. You know he leads a sort of a group of horsemen that he kind of has a posse that he sends out looking for meat for his kitchens normally, but these guys are now collecting this body, taking it back to Visage for a funeral. What is your plot to find them, or are you just going to ride as hard as you can and hope something happens? What's the scheme?
Cool. Graham, you got
The
an
one
idea?
thing I would say is that Grahame has nebulous magic available to the movie.
I do. I could magic. I could magic up some tides to slow the other people down, maybe some tides of sand.
I like that.
Sort of make the desert a little more sandy and a little less stable, or the wastelands make it a little more sandy.
Absolutely, that sounds awesome. So you're going to attempt to summon a sandstorm with which to slow the passage of all people in the region. Okay, fantastic. Cool.
Yes,
That sounds like a challenge to me.
That couldn't
it does a bit.
possibly backfire.
I agree with Kegan here. I see no way that could fail.
Yeah.
Okay, so what could the consequence of this thing going wrong be? Honestly,
Literally none.
this is quite an aggressive use of magic. You are attempting to summon the spirits of the desert themselves and try to kick them up by the way. To be clear, the way you traditionally move things, a tide of the sand is caused by the tides of the moons, right? The tidal forces. So what doing this magic probably entails, in my mind, is telling one of the moons via the force of tide to drag itself across this part of the desert. So you are going to wrench a moon out of its natural orbit. Although the moons are weird. They kind of appear at certain places. They have a personality. But you can drag a moon across the desert and then see what happens. There's two consequences to this that I could propose. The first one is this situation gets more dangerous because there is a bunch of sand being kicked about and people are going to start looking for you. The second is we could introduce the muzzled to this situation. You're this kind of gunpowder obsessed hermit wizard who lives there. And then the other thing I could say, and I think this is probably my favorite one, your master, the Stargazer, chief of the mystics, mighty amongst the magi, who is a sort of 500-year-old genderless old sorcerer, will be deeply disgruntled that you manipulated the moons in this way. And there will be consequences on your return to court should you do this with anything less than perfect grace.
I like that one a lot, although it's not something we probably see very much on stream. So
I wouldn't stress it. Don't worry. The game, the kind of assumption that whatever you do here is going to be in a song, probably one told by Mari, to be honest. And like this has ramifications throughout the rest of the campaign, and the setting is really interesting. But yeah, the mystic, the chief of the mystics, the Stargazer, the great Kai here, she will be enraged by your manipulation of the moon. But I want you to do it anyway, please.
I absolutely will do it anyway.
Cool. Hell yeah. So, do you have a reputation that's going to help you here?
Sagacious?
Yeah, for sure.
Like
You're
on
very
the stage?
You're very wise.
Yes.
Cool. One of the things to mention is you can only invoke your reputations once per quest. So you've already used Perceptive.
Yep.
You'll have Sagacious used as well. The only one you will have left is, I think, Free Willed. Should you try to do this again. Do you have any equipment that's going to help you in this moon-based ritual?
Some sort of magic wand or staff, maybe?
I think Mari probably has a staff. Not Mari, sorry, different character.
Moonlight.
I think the Moonlark most certainly has a staff. That would make sense here. That's wizardly abode. Your pointy hat with all the stars and moons on it will help you as well, probably.
Of course.
Okay. Do you want an extra D6? If you put yourself at risk, the threat may increase on this quest. Should you do it? I mean, this sounds dangerous.
It sounds like I'm already at risk. Kind of putting everybody at risk here.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's summon some magic. Okay. Do you have a reputation that's going to hinder you? I don't think perceptive or free will is going to cause you a problem here.
No.
This task probably isn't unusually dangerous, and you have the support of your cadre. So you are rolling here with 3 dice. Good luck.
Sweet. Let's see what I do. Highest is a 4.
Highest is a 4. Okay, so you've not failed. You have succeeded, which means you do not gain that extra threat in this situation. But so tell me how you arrest the very movement of the moons themselves and drag one across the desert, and tell me what that magical ritual looks like. If you're not comfortable with it, I'm happy to narrate that.
I think it's sort of almost writing in the sky with the staff, just kind of directing, sort of lassoing the moon like it's in Photoshop, and then just kind of dragging it across the thing, across the heavens. And then, the sand starts to kick up.
Hell yeah. Cool. So this part of the world is now covered in sandstorms. It is now unpleasant to travel in. You've surely slowed the fine host down a great deal. And likely Sir Houston as well, should you find her. There's a question here, and I think this is an interesting one. And I'm happy to ask this. I think it's probably removing the probably like peeling back the curtain more than I normally would. But this is a game about seeing the future, right? Moonlark in particular probably has some level of prophetic ability, which is something you would know about. And I would ask you, do we think it would be more interesting if our final encounter was linking up somehow with Houston and then having an encounter with the fine host after having convinced her to help you, to join you, and come back as well and do her job, rather than or is the alternative that we find the fine house first and the challenge is actually convincing this knight to return to her duties? Like, which one of those final encounters do we think is a more interesting showdown for the end of the session? Because I think one of those two things is happening, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on what has changed in her is actually kind of the thing, and I don't know the answer to that. Other than she's distraught, right? Like, I mean, we do know.
I mean, I'm happy. I will tell you now, because I think the knights would have mentioned this. The guys would have mentioned it. She didn't take it well. It's something you've been told.
Right.
Yeah.
Her new reputations have changed from the ones she had, and because of the thing that happens is like the knights in this, like other people are having challenges around you as well, right? And their reputations are changing as they go. That's what's happening here. The reputations I have for her written in the book are mourning, grief-stricken, and desperate. So, like, she is not in a good place. And it's about if we think that a confrontation with this false knight or a conversation with her is going to be more interesting. And I'm happy to hear either.
I sort of like the idea of the confrontation with the false knight, and sort of letting her get her piece somehow here.
That's kind of the
do
direction
too,
I was
yeah.
leaning to.
I think if we knew she was doing something horribly defying the laws of physics, then I might be like, oh, her. But if we just think she's distraught and seeking out vengeance, I think we lean into the false knight.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, let's do that then. Cool. Right. So let's do that. Right. Cool. So I'm going to roll an encounter for what happens next as you attempt to journey to where we think this character is. Can I get 2d6s from someone, please?
I got it. We got 3, 2.
3 and 2. Thank you very much. For those of you following along at home, the normal in the quick start, you have a d3 of encounters. I have expanded the list available so that I'm using the full d6s available to each of the regions in the book, which is why there's some stuff you might not recognize, but that's okay. So it was a 3 and a 2, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know you have reached the road that the fine host will walk down when you reach this point. It is a street. It is 3 foot wide, maybe a bit wider than that, but the bit that you notice is 3 foot 5. It is a pearlescent white road. And as you stand on it, you know this road runs from myth to visage. It is paved with teeth. This would be the route that he takes. I'm trying to work out which one of these makes sense. With these encounters.
Trying to work out if my character notices these are teeth or not.
Yeah, they just look like little white stones. But when you try to lead your horses across them, they recoil. They're like, ooh, no, bad. Teeth, like they are funny and they make little clicking noises as you try to walk on them. Like the road itself is wider, but there's obviously a bit that they have paved, and whether these are actual teeth or they just look like teeth, you're not sure. But because like it doesn't make sense is the thing that like, and again, those of you that would clock this, because I feel like Mari and the Moonlark are certainly more in tune with the natural world, possibly the Sir Darian is in his sort of rage and insolence. That's a lot of teeth. Like that is a person per 5 millimeters for like 2 days ride, 3 days ride. It's a big kingdom. They must be magically summoned, you think. There must be some ritual by which these things exist. There aren't enough people in the world for this to be all teeth, but it hurts to walk on and it does the eyes. You know this is the come on. You see on this road, sitting against the like a post or something, a corpse, a trio of wolves or rabid dogs or something, you're not sure exactly, gingerly poke this rotten corpse and you're unsure if they're going to eat it or not. Normally when you see wolves near carrion, they would eat it immediately, but these seem almost scared of it. You can interact with it and the wolves, or you can simply wait here, for you know this is the path that he would head down. And the sandstorm you have summoned, and the fact that your horses are better than his maggot-infested steed he will be riding, you know you will be here first.
What are when the dead rise? What's the best way to put them back down?
Great question. This corpse doesn't look undead.
Okay.
It's definitely down and on the ground and not moving. You would, I mean, probably. I mean, I don't know. I think you probably just stave the skull in, and that would stop. Yeah. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's just a good general precaution with dead bodies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whether or not this one is up and moving now, it seems like a thing. So I think, I mean, I am gonna kind of move up and try to more scare the wolves off. Like, I mean, they're part of just the ecosystem. I get it.
Yeah, they flee the moment you get near them. They're not up for a fight with someone with a sword.
And yeah, I wanna bring did I ride? No, we're on did I ride with a banner sticking out of my steed or not? Oh god, I probably did. I hate this character.
You made these. It's really funny. These are characters from the extended playtest session
Yeah.
I did. And it's been really interesting watching other characters play them. Mari was like, no, not well. Moonlark is specifically like a small blonde femme wizard who like was played in certain ways, and like Darian was an asshole, but he wasn't like. He mainly just like had very strong opinions about what the king should have been doing,
Right.
And was like insolent in that way, rather than like. And it's, I mean, to be clear, you've taken a prompt, you've ran with it. It's really interesting seeing all these different characters appearing from the same prompts. But like, I've GM'd 5 different people playing Mari now, right? And it's interesting to see how they all deal with it in different ways. You know, a fascinating thing with pre-made characters when you've ran a quick start a couple times over the course of playtesting and additional playtests and promotional streams. But yeah, fascinating one to watch. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what are you gonna do with the banner?
I'm gonna bring the haft of the banner staff down on the skull of this body.
Cool. They're not touching it. Even the cannibals wouldn't eat this. It's clearly cursed with some kind of magic. And yet you cave the skull in with your banner. And yeah, you're kind of just left here waiting on the road, I think, for this guy to arrive. I think we're about to do the showdown, folks.
Cool.
Okay. So, recap of how this works. You got 3 showdown tokens. You owned 1 from finding out that you're dealing with Sir Partruth. You've earned the other 2 from finding out the situation with Sir Houston upon this quest. You know about her relationship with Sir Catherine. You know that she fled in the night. You know that she was looking to recover her lover's body. At some point, Catherine is going to appear, but you are now waiting for Partruth. You don't know how many people he's going to have with him, but this is going to be sort of the encounter. So what we do here is that I can't walk you through the maths of the situation quickly. Your threat is 9, and you have 3 showdown tokens. This is a really good situation, folks. You've passed all of your checks with a 6, apart from the one that Grahame failed by wagering the fact that the most important wizard in the world is going to be angry at Moonlark when they return to court. That's fine. We deal with that in the next couple of sessions over the course of play, particularly because we know that, well, for starters, the Stargazer has like owls that fly around the world and deliver messages for her, right? So you might hear about this wizard being annoyed even before this, but it won't happen this session. You don't have to go all the way out to the capital. The Stargazer is the kind of person who will let you know when they are annoyed. You've got 3 showdown tokens and you've got 9 threat. That means that you are looking for a 6 to an 8 for a success, a partial success, and a 9 for a full success. You then propose something bad that will happen to your character. And that is the cost for when this showdown happens, something that will result in a change in your character's reputation, or describe something important to you, or something interesting happening in the story. And the more interesting and dramatically appropriate and emotionally large that consequence is, the bigger bonus you will get. Somewhere between a +1 and a +5. You can combine some of those things together and wager the things together. But importantly, there needs to be one person who decides what that consequence is, agrees it with the GM, and then rolls the final dice. So somebody, one of the party, is going to be leading this showdown with Sir Partruth. Any volunteers?
I mean, I'll do it.
I was like, I'll do it.
Okay,
It's a confrontation with a false knight.
Let's do night to night. I think it makes sense. Yeah, and we've already done bard battle, big desert magic. So
Yeah, that's why I was like,
night.
this feels like your moment.
Yeah,
exactly.
Feels right.
Also, Tony, Darian's cloak looks amazing in this sandstorm. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, you're billowing right now, my dude. You are having a good one. Yeah. No, so yeah, okay. So what happens is that Parch Ruth rides on his maggot-infested stallion out of the desert. This is a big horse. He has a cart behind him and 4 outriders. Most of the members of the Endless Horde just use melee weapons. They like to get up close and personal with people. But so these knights have like spears. They're not knights, they're like horsemen or footmen or whatever. They've got spears, they're on their horses. They notice you and kind of all draw to a halt. They also have with them on the back, they have a cart. And assumedly in the cart, in probably a box of some kind, is Sir Catherine. They also have attached to that same cart a rifleman who has, on a sort of swivel mount on the top of the thing, a big, like a long-barreled rifle. Somewhere between like a Jezzail and an elephant gun. Partruth notices you. He draws his sword and spits on the ground in front of you. He utters some threat and says, I knew that this sandstorm would be the doing of some meddlesome mythborn, and draws a wizard forge gun. I don't know its name. I'm going to make one up quickly. Let me just look at my tables. I should have done this.
I don't know
my
its name,
God.
but it's a really cool one.
It's
What is it?
Excalibur.
Okay, yeah. What are you guys? So anybody got any ideas for what this gun is made of, what it shoots, and what's horrible about it, and what it's called?
So he's the fine host.
Yes. He's the major domo and the hunter of meat for his master. I know that the Rangvid the Decrepit's gun is called Gristle.
Yeah, so
and fires bones.
The gun's called Viscera because it's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does it extrude, Kegan?
I chose one detail, Tony, so it's your turn to choose the detail.
I was going to say finger bones.
I was gonna say, I like the idea of leading into almost a culinary theme, and like seasoning or gravy were my 2 initial thoughts. Not in and I don't want to say that in a comedic way, right? So, but with viscera, I almost like the idea of like hot, like sizzling hot fat.
Oh God. Okay. That's a weird gun. I'm on board. Yeah, it shoots like something. What do they call it when you like boil down fat to like it's like something reduced?
Yeah, I was trying to think of what the specific thing that it is when you
okay.
do like the fat reduction, but I could not for the life of me.
Yeah, okay. And then I mean that's what's weird about it as well. It's like this, it's gonna fire searing meat at you in some fashion. Okay, cool. Right. This is the new weirdest gun Inevitable, and there's several weird
Hell
guns.
yeah.
Cool. So Viscera. He levels it at you and just sort of says, you've come here for Sir Catherine then.
I mean, it seems unfair that a squire would escort an esteemed knight back somewhere other than home.
He hates that. I am anointed, sir. The true king of myth has granted me my I sit among the circle, the loyalists of the king, no false children of fake blood. He refers to the common rumor that Rebane is a bastard, and that's the reason he doesn't have the handgun of kings. and that their argument is that the brother, his uncle, the brother of the king, should have it, even though he's a horrible man. But yeah, I think this is some kind of violent confrontation in a minute. We've done it. There's been some insults, some pre-talking. He's leveled a handgun at you.
Yeah.
What consequence of this thing could happen? What is the juiciest bad thing that could happen to Darian and the story at this point for me to grant you some nice big bonuses in this role?
Let's see. He's got a gun.
Yeah, he's got a gun. You've not got a gun.
I do not have a gun.
But it's not a magical gun. Well, no, it is a magical.
It isn't, because it definitely shoots hot fat.
Yeah.
Which feels magical.
Yeah. His gun is certainly made by some sort of weird wizard. The cannibal saint probably made it himself and gifted it to his.
Yeah. So, do we have like the moon hanging overhead? The moon that's been pulled around hanging overhead right now?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
I like this. I've got a moon-hued blade. I like the idea that I have to I think I want to wager my sword, right? Like this combat, if it goes wrong, is going to destroy my blade, like what I have to do right now.
Destroying the Andalite is a juicy proposal. I am prepared to grant a +3 on that check for that bonus.
Cody, can I add to this for you real quick? Just because
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like it wouldn't be a game I was in if I didn't add this detail, is that I think if your sword is destroyed, it also destroys the moon, and we'll just have to deal with that.
I think it will certainly do something weird to the moon, but it won't destroy.
Yeah.
The moon will be affected, and that will mean that as a consequence of that, the Stargazer would be even more annoyed if you screw up one of the moons.
Right.
So yeah, sure. Okay.
Again.
The other thing I will offer you is that if you fail this check after calling this guy a squire, that is not going to make you look very good, right?
Oh, I'll have been beaten by a squire.
You have been beaten by a squire. What are your 3 reputations currently?
Mine are ill-fated, which is great, valiant, and insolent.
I mean,
Well, there goes your valiance.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I'd also want to, if you lose this, so even if it's close, frankly, because you called him a squire, he's about to shoot you. I think ill-fated is already like a weird one. If you've destroyed this moon, that'd be bad enough. I don't think you'll be valiant. You'll be in question. There'll be some new words to do with your lack of competence that we're going to replace valiant with. I mean, if not valiant, then like, ooh.
Brash or foolhardy.
Brash, yeah. Valiant goes to brash, I think.
Okay.
Which I like. That's a good change. I'll give you another +1 for that. That'll put you at +4.
I love that. I mean, I'm happy for a +4.
How would you like the sound of that? Okay, cool. So give me a D6, roll a +4. You're looking for a 7. What this means is that a 4, a 5, or a 6 will get you a partial success. Sorry, a 4 or a 5 will get you a partial. No, I've done this completely wrong. You're looking for a 6 because you've got 3 showdown tokens. That means a 3 up, you will succeed with a cost, and at a 6, you will pass completely. Let's see that D6.
This is a single high stakes D6 roll.
Single high stakes D6. This is how we like it. No pools here, my friend.
Drum roll.
That's a 1.
No, it is actually a 6. Which I really didn't want it to be, but it's a 6.
Okay, so
And you did the thing I do where you look down and you laugh, and I know you're faking.
I just held it up as if y'all could easily read the weird digital, the digital code on here. No, but
weird digital dice roll. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think that Partruth has people with him. He has a Jezzail and 4 mounted knights, and he has a gun and you don't. He feels very happy with himself. He does not know the valiant, ill-fated knight that is Darian the Amber-Hearted. He fires his first shot that I think glances from your blade, and it's all the thing that's happened here is that you've brought Ezra the orange moon above you, and now the Andalite is more powerful than ever. You take a single swing and knock him from his horse, not by the actual force of the blade, but it feels like longer and more powerful. You knock him down, a bullet fires at you, and a gunfight begins, right? But you've got two friends with you, and they've also got guns, right? You're not here by yourself. This isn't a single combat. He's not challenging you to a duel. He just pointed a pistol at you. So I think probably, I mean, correct me if you guys wouldn't do this. I think Mari and the Moonlark both start blasting, right?
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
cutting people down. You've got this guy. He's on his back. You are able to handily defeat this enemy. There is a moment where you feel Andalite shake in your hand, like as it goes through, as it I think actually just breaks the sword of Parchruth and goes clean through his chest and into the dirt. You feel a moment where you worried the glass of the blade would shatter, and you sort of then pull back your sword, look at it again, and the knights have been defeated. You have this corpse, you've established it, but there was a moment where you feared for your, when that first shot went and you deflected it from the blade, that was one hit, then you did another, like, you know, you don't feel in control, but you've won this fight most certainly. You now have Sir Catherine's body in this cart, and I'd say a couple minutes after, behind her on her horse is Sir Halston, and she rides up. She has an axe, and is like a famous warrior, in fact. And she looks fucking angry. Doesn't look well in terms of the storm either. Has clearly been battered about a bunch. Was not prepared for this kind of weather, and sort of appears and looks up at you. Probably you guys are on the back of the cart inspecting Sir Catherine. She sort of goes, Sir Darian? And then sort of nods at the rest of you as well. Moonlark, Mari. And then like rushes over past you quite quickly. And I mean, just weeps and puts her dead partner in her arms and just cries for a couple minutes. I mean, for a while. You sort of have a moment where you realize over the din of the thunderstorm that these gunshots won't have been heard, and you should just give her some time to feel, right? And then I think following that confrontation, you guys are relatively easily using the cover of this storms that have been brewed by the Moonlark, help her get her partner back to the Brook Fort. And you are able that same evening to bury her in the ground with enough rocks put over her body that no one will bring her back from the dead. She won't rise unless someone digs her up. And you now have this knight on your side in a way you wouldn't have had before. And there's you feel her start to come to her senses as you have this ceremony. One of the soldiers who knows his way around this sort of thing reads some religious text that you know that she was a faithful of. The Justicar, who's like the god of the dawn and of the mountains. And as you are dealing with that, feeling this, you watch Sir Halston, who had those reputations, mourning, grief-stricken, desperate, and something steals in her. And you know that come the morning, when she next prays to that same Justicar that she worships as a knight of myth, she'll have some new reputations and be ready to do some real damage to the cannibal saint. And she'll probably be looking for help in the morning to go hunt down the gourmand. and that would be our session 2, where we keep playing this campaign,
Hmm.
the Arthurian Western role-playing game, Inevitable.
Awesome. I can't wait to get back here at the exact same time next week to do that. No, I'm just kidding. Let's do our reaction roll. Reaction roll is a live stream inside of a live stream. It's our chance to sit down with the creator of a game that we just played and talk about what it was like to play that game. Today, we were playing Inevitable, a doomed Arthurian Western RPG that's funding right now over on Kickstarter. It's in its last couple days. Or if you're watching this like next week and you're like, how do I get in on this? Go ahead and travel over to the link down below, ttrpg.link/inevitableks. Take you right there. Let them know that we sent you over there, and you'll also be able to find out more details about where you can back it if you're seeing this late. But if you're not, if you're seeing this in the next 4 days, hop on over there, check it out, give it a back if you've enjoyed this stream or it feels like it hits your vibes. I had a blast playing, but let's hear more from the creator. Jelly, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this game, kind of how it came to be, and what people can expect from the project itself.
Cool. So I've been working on this one for a real long time. If you're familiar with Soulmother's work, you'll know that we make games about people struggling to escape really difficult situations and dealing with stuff going on. Our dungeon crawling game is about how awful it would be to be a dungeoneer in real life. For you to do that, it kind of deals with your characters who are professional dungeoneers, are employed by a bank to go and dig for a dungeon, and it kind of has a real impact on them as people. And we hit a lot of emotional notes while doing that. And it's a game about workers' rights and about capitalism and how colonialism is bad, right? Big themes for a dungeon crawler, which sometimes those dungeon crawling games don't have themes. But when I write a role-playing game, I want it to make people feel things and have emotions and kind of have a purpose to it, right? Because it's art and it should do that. Orbital Blues, which is our kind of follow-up game that's also about sad cowboys like this one, is set in a capitalist hyper-future in a big Dust Bowl desert in space. Well, the Dust Bowl of space, rather than there being a physical dust. There is dust in space. I'm going to stop eating my own words. That's a game about being self-employed and trying to make ends meet and having a mortgage on a spaceship you know you're never going to pay off. In the rules of the game, your characters lose all the money they've spent at the end of the session, and they get to spend it on one little nice thing, right? Your characters gain experience points by role-playing their depression, right? You've got the blues, which is the reason you're sad in space. That happens, right? And you level up by being sad. Sad for XP is one of the jokes I like to run for. Instead of getting gold, it's you role-play what makes you feel depressed. Gangs of Titan City, which was our big release last year, is about people, it's about crime, and it's about people trying to get noticed and make something for themselves, even if it is in horrible ways. In an unjust system, it's set in like a big, like a hive city, if you've got familiar with Necromunda or anything like that. And or Judge Dredd, Mega City 1, your cyberpunk fiction, it's set in one of those. And it's not a nice time for characters either, because our games are about cycles, and Inevitable for me is another game in that same genre. It's you're playing characters, you're playing good people in a bad situation, trying to do the best you can and making decisions about what it is we're prepared to lose to try and save the world, right? One of the things that you do when you make a character, and this is my favorite thing I came up with very late in the writing process, is you are encouraged to meditate on the stage of which of the 5 stages of grief your character is at about the destruction of your civilization, right? And what you're then going to do about that, how you're going to role-play the character. And that obviously changes over the course of the campaign. But the story for this one, like how I wrote it, was that I wrote a novel like 6 years ago that was like basically Dark Tower fan fiction. But I couldn't, that was about people dealing with death and being told how they were going to die and then having to interact with that in a certain way. That was really difficult to make into a role-playing game. But what I did is I made it about we knew how the civilization was going to be destroyed. And your characters still get to decide an important part of the story, but like it's a play-to-lose game. So it's always going to end one way. And it's about having as much vibes as possible for me and using that to emotionally hook in your players to that. And it's about telling the story of the mythology. But yeah, that's where it came from. basically. It's an Arthuriana and westerns is just a vehicle for me, or adding a bunch of vibes, allowing us to explore that story about people trying to do the best they can in a bad situation.
I enjoyed it. I know early on, Dr. Kilbat over on YouTube commented, and on YouTube, on Facebook, one of the ads that's running, Colin Lesueur is running ads right now, also too, for Deal and Lead. So we were like 2 Dark Tower RPGs and one, and I was like, I mean, having played them both and knowing the experiences of both, they're wildly different games. But it is still drawing on some of those really kind of evocative themes that come out of that type of writing. But I love hearing you kind of talk about it and having experienced this when we actually sat down. Like, I'd look through the quick start when you originally sent it over to me, but today as we were getting ready for play and I was sitting down with it, like, it's super lean, like dice pool systems play so fast, they get out of the way really easy, allow for varied successes. So like for light mechanics, the narrative piece has really come forward, and I loved playing with you as a GM also too, because I love, like, there's a lot of lore here, and also there's a lot of it that you get a ton of tools with that, like with the lore that comes in, that you were just like casually, I'm just going to drop this piece, I'm just going to drop that piece as a GM, like, which was super enjoyable for me as a player to be able to take in, here's a little piece of the world, whether you know it or not, that does matter for this moment, right? But we also get to decide, hey, at this moment, has our character experienced this? What matters at this narrative moment for us? How are those stakes hinging? So having that big world that the GM can play around with and drop things in, that has a great ability to reinforce those themes, and then inviting the players how they're going to enter that toolkit in this very moment, was a really cool thing to just kind of experience in the moment of play, also to getting to play with you, whereas somebody else GMing isn't necessarily going to have all that stuff internalized and be able to do some of those little drops.
It's an interesting like dichotomy for me, because like when I run, most of the games I make don't have lots of lore in them. Like, or like when I was involved in like co-creating Orbital Blues with 2 incredible other creators, Sam Sleaney and Josh Clark, but we made a very deliberate decision early on that like we didn't want to have loads of lore be present for the game. And the same thing's true for Best Left Buried. Like, you can, if you want, engage in the setting, but most of the time it's about going into a dungeon and finding out what that's about, right? Whereas this was a game for me because I'd written a novel first, right? This is a setting that I have in a role-playing game in. There's an enormous part. There's like 6 years of context for me that I want to give as much to as the GMs as possible. But like, the actual important thing is something I said right at the start, and it was the first bullet point that I read after I said, this is what you're doing. I gave you the one-line pitch of your knights trying to protect the king. Everything that exists in a fantasy or a western exists somewhere in this world, right? And what I want to give players and GMs is permission to make the story about themselves and have the lore be something that is helpful and is present but isn't restrictive, right? I don't want it to be an overwhelming weight of facts that players have to learn should they want to understand the game. Like, it's just about smacking them in and making them interesting. Like, you don't need to know who Kai here is or anything about the moons or learn about all these conspiracies of birds. But when I say to somebody, your gun was given to you by some birds, right? That's something interesting you can play with, and like, that can either be something in the background or those birds can become NPCs or whatever in the game you want to play. Because to me, I want the lore to be expansive rather than restrictive. Right. And the important thing is anything makes sense that your players want to have, as long as we're telling a story and it's interesting. Like, I don't care if it matches my vision of the setting or not, because like, once you've bought the role-playing game and you've not even bought it, once you're playing it, it belongs to you, right? And you should be able to do what you want with it.
And so for me, I think that there was one moment where you were like, it was when you were talking about, maybe it was the guns, but like, the cathedral, like, which was the desiccated cathedral of a previous god call. It still had the feel of adjective, right? Like, you were just describing something. You were not being prescriptive on here's what you have to do to that, or how do I have to take weight in about that. It was exactly kind of what you want when you're reading a book of, you're telling me in 4 or 5 words something important about the world that implies a whole lot more, but then you're just letting me pick that up and run with it and do what I want with it. And I do think that hits that expansive note that you're talking about incredibly perfectly. And again, mostly it's just like, it's really fun to play with the designers. It's one of the reasons we love to play with the designers, is even implied setting when it's done well, is exactly those little tasty bits that you get to chomp on as a player here as a GM or drop in that suggests something that everybody can start making decisions around. What could that mean and what does that say? It was just super enjoyable. So let's hear what some other people had to think about, thought about experiencing. I saw Grahame nodding along gently. Grahame, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, in case they joined us late, and then also what it was like to play Inevitable.
Yeah, I'm Grahame. I am a game designer and sometime podcaster. I am at understory.itch.io and on Twitter and Tumblr at the Instagram. Graham spelled like the cracker, but with an E in the end. Yeah, the thing that I really liked about the way that like the quests were structured, and the thing that I thought was really interesting is it does evoke for me a lot of what I like about like sort of old school, like Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Beowulf. Like, I haven't read a ton of like the Arthurian cycle, but I've read bits and pieces, and it kind of has that same feeling of like the knight sets out knowing what they're going to do at the end of it, but a bunch of stuff happens along the way, and a lot of the story comes in with how they kind of overcome those challenges, knowing that they've still got this bigger quest. And I know that that's a very common thing in like fantasy novels, but it just kind of, the sort of structure of the quest worked really well in that way. That kind of felt very like Arthuriana, despite also being very Western. So I just really liked that.
Did you have any questions you wanted to ask Jelly?
Me?
Yeah.
Nothing comes to mind immediately.
We'll pop back over to you in a second. Let's hear what Kegan thought. Kegan, what was your experience playing?
Yeah, this was just a blast. I don't have anything. You all covered all the real smart points already. So I had fun.
Gosh, what a horrible insult to say you had fun playing a game.
Wasn't meant to be
Honestly.
fun. It was meant to be sad, Kegan.
It was
What are you
supposed to be
doing?
sad.
Shit,
out.
cancel me.
Why aren't
I'm
you
so sorry.
appreciating
I'm
my
so
art?
sorry.
Actually, I do have a question, which I think is more of an excuse to talk about something and less like a why did you do this kind of thing. But the fact that it is play to lose, the fact that we start with this like the world is going to end. Can you like why? I guess.
Well, like I said earlier, the original novel was about exploring about 3 or 4 characters and their relationship with their predetermined deaths. Like, so, and about different ways you can deal with knowing that this is a no-win situation, right? So one of the characters is like, yeah, I like how I'm going to die. This is great. I'm going to run around and be an amazing warrior and no one can kill me. I'm fantastic. Whereas the other person is, I hate this. I'm going to try find some other valiant death that I can do. Because it's about these characters who are obsessed with knowledge, and that in the setting what happens is known. And like we said that earlier, like, this is perfect. Like, we know this character's going to die, so we'll make sure reinforcements are there the next day, right? And somebody's thinking about it but can't actually solve the situation. And it was something wonderful and beautiful to me about like knowing that certain things are going to happen. And I think the other thing with the prophecy is that it allows you to lean into really great role playing when you know the broad strokes of something, but not the details, right? There's a lot of room for you to, even if you say it's ultimately restrictive, you can paint your own, you can add such color and shading and something, even if the lines have already been drawn in, right? In the sort of extended metaphor. I mean, Play to Lose for me was from like, there's a bunch of really great RPGs that kind of in that space. Principally, the one that I get a lot of inspiration from is like Trophy, which I know you guys will have played a lot around here. I love Trophy Dark. I think it's really cool. I didn't like the fact it was a one-shot, right? I really like campaign play, and Trophy Gold didn't hit the same notes to me because I felt like it was extracting some of the stuff about Dungeon Crawling I didn't like. So I was like, well, what does a Play to Lose campaign look like, right? And not as in like a campaign that's like 3 sessions, right? What I want to know is what a Play to Lose campaign that runs for 2 years looks like, right? And that's what this book is. If you run the play test that these characters came from ran for about 12 months, I think. And we did 3 of the 6 dooms in the book. We did half of it. So if you use everything here and you're willing to play the long game, there's about 2 years of campaign in this book and replayability, because every group's going to do it very differently, right? So for me, it was about loving the idea of Play to Lose, but not being invested in the characters because I knew they were going to die at the end of the session. There was nothing I could do about that. Whereas, like, when you play Inevitable, you don't know the characters are going to die. You know that the civilization is going to die, and you get to decide how and where the characters die or leave, right? Because there's options for that. Of some characters are going to survive the fall of myth. All they have to do is betray the king, right? And decide their own life is more important. And that's sort of being part of the paradoxical nature of it. Like, no one has said in the setting that all the people are going to die, right? All the knights have their prophesized deaths. It's because of their loyalty to these failing institutions, right? Civilization will probably continue in some way after the destruction of the world, but it's about deciding what means the most to you. And for some characters, it's going to be chivalry and being remembered well and making sure that the legends think of them kindly. Whereas for others, it's going to be, well, I'll save this if I can, but when the going gets tough, I need to look after myself and the people I care about. And Play to Lose was about that, and like wanting to, also just do something tremendously poignant that is a metaphor for a lot of things in real life, because we are in what I honestly consider right now a Play to Lose situation, right? I don't know which way our civilization makes it out the next 50 years, with running out of water and environmental stuff, and the economy and late stage capitalism is going to be bad, right? We're in that right now. The destruction of this world is inevitable. How are we going to be remembered? What are you going to do, right? So yeah, metaphor. And I'm not an activist. I'm not a climate activist. I don't have the emotional energy, frankly. I do what I can, but I'm making art to be beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was something poignant and fascinating, and I wanted other people to enjoy Cowboys as much as I did.
Yeah.
And this was that could exist in.
As some, like, we should all be climate activists, but also individuals, or even individuals en masse, don't make any sort of impact in light of the massive amount of corporate polluting and corporate destruction of environmental concerns. So, legislation and voting is great also too for all that stuff. No, I love it. And I was curious about the relationship to trophy and stuff like that, just being a very modern Play to Lose game, having some not just some vibe tones and some other just kind of connecting points. I was just listening to an interview with Jason, and it's something that struck me during this. Like, it would be interesting if you were playing a large scale campaign, but somebody wasn't there for a week, to say, hey, we're going to play different characters in a different part of the world. These characters are not going to make it through this session. Like, you're all going to die at the end of it, and your main characters will arrive there in a couple of weeks to encounter what they had. Because apparently there's a lot of people who are using like gold and dark and loom interchangeably, and they'll do like dark sessions to expand the lore of a very specific part of the world that then they as players get to know as their characters either arrive there or just encounter the remnant of afterwards, or hear about from a distance but matters to the overarching elements. And I was like, that's really cool. I could see doing the exact same thing in Inevitable from time to time, of being like, man, what is it like to go play over in this little section of the world real quick, experience this part of the story, and then jump back into the main narrative with the characters we're with week in, week out, if we want to rotate, or if somebody's not there for a given week, just as a one-off. So I think there's just also there's a large amount of portability. Like, will you hold up the quick start again? Like, it's a pocket, like my pocket zine. Like, it's
this is double the size of the one you print on A4. This is actually an A3 sheet that my friends at Leyline Press printed a bunch of them for us. They make Salvage Union and stuff like that. Very thankful for help with getting those printed. But yeah, the quick start, which is the bones that we were playing today, but obviously I come out of a lot more context, is one of these A4 beak scenes. So there is a cut down the middle of the piece of paper here, which is why we call it a beak, because it looks like this. And that then turns it into a book, and it's rules on the one side and adventure on the other. So real neat way to get playing. I'm happy that I worked out how to form factor that one nicely.
No, it was a great way to do it. Super easy to just get through, get up and playing. And again, another tool that it's great if you're if you're trying to get players introduced to a new system for the first time, being able to say, "Here is everything you need to know." Like let's build some characters and get going.
Yeah.
Is just super pleasant to be able to do. As somebody who digests new systems on a regular basis, those type of tools and that process of onboarding new players is incredibly helpful, especially when you've got a big book that you're also going to be able to pull things from as well. So very excited for you. Congrats on funding. Super excited to see this project get out into the world. Near physical release, we'll have a short review video that's going to drop also too with some of my thoughts extended about it as we get those final versions and are able to kind of look at some of the bigger pieces that go into it. So keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. Head over to ttrpg.link/inevitableks. Find out more here. If you want to support this channel, one of the best ways you can do that is either subscribing here or heading over to plus1exp.com and checking out any of our great games there, or the great games from different independent creators we carry, like Kegan, like Meat Castle Game Rare, our work press, as well as all of our own in-house publications. Head over there to plus1exp to check those out and support the work that we do. We're going to be back on Monday. I won't be here, but Kegan will. Kegan, what are y'all playing on Monday?
We're playing session 2 of our Triangle Agency mini campaign.
What is Triangle Agency?
Oh God, you can't throw this at me. My
I just
brain's not
did.
working.
Say the quote. It's one of the cool things that Kegan loves.
Yeah, it's a great game.
I'm gonna clip that and send it to Caleb. That's what I'm gonna do. Come back on Monday night for that. The next couple of Mondays, I'm out of town next week. I'm at the Gauntlet Writers Retreat, hanging out with a bunch of amazing writers and doing a couple of workshops there down in the Smoky Hills and playing a whole lot of games. So we'll have Kegan and Sarah on for Monday, and then we'll be back in a couple of weeks with more content. You can find all the stuff we do at +1EXP across all social media platforms. But before you do anything else, go check out Inevitable over on Kickstarter. Jelly, thanks so much for coming today. Grahame, thanks so much for playing with us. We don't have a good way to end these streams, and at this point, we're not interested in trying. I'm going to look at the right camera for a second. So until next time, we're just going to wave at the camera until I take us off air. Bye, everybody.
Bye.